Do you ever get the feeling the claims from West Ham United, the figures that the board claim are true, change on a regular basis and it doesn't really add up? Well, I certainly do, and I'm going to show you exactly why that is my belief, and I think we're seeing it again today, and I don't like it one bit. Welcome to Hammers Chat. If you're new around here, please do subscribe and just double check that you have subscribed. Someone commented the other day that they've been watching this channel for years, so they just assume they subscribe. But actually, they haven't, so do just check. It takes 2 seconds, it's completely free, and also drop a like on the video as well by clicking that thumbs up button. If we could get 1,000 likes, that would be fantastic. Right then, 10 years ago, Conor Brady said, as part of the persuasion and the lies before we moved to London Stadium, Conor Brady said, world-class football team in a world-class stadium. That's what the West Ham United board were going to deliver with the move to the London Stadium. That's not my claim, that's not your claim, that's her claim. That's the words of the West Ham United board. Now let's jump forward to as the season was finishing, the one that we've just had. It's coming up to the end of the season. We're 17th at this point. On a weekly basis, it's getting drip fed out there from the in the nose and the journalists. West Ham are skint this summer. They're going to have to sell before they buy. That's their policy. They are skint. There's no money whatsoever. The finance experts that are independent, like Caden Maguire, David Ornstein of The Athletic, looked at it, looked at the claims, looked at the accounts and thought, that doesn't really add up. Because back then the club were saying, because of PSR, we can't spend money. Those independent people looked at it and said, well, actually, you can spend money. Cash flow might be an issue, but PSR, you're fine. There's a little bit of wiggle room there. You're all right this summer. The narrative has had to change since then, of course, because they've got found out. But that was the claim. For over a month, we've been getting told, before the season had even finished, this miserable news was coming out from the club. This week, the cheeky buggers, via ex-West Ham employee, the board suggested West Ham fans need to calm down, be patient, and judge them at the end of the transfer window. Now, in isolation, removing all the context and focusing just on that suggestion, which is we all just chill out, judge them at the end of the window. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. That's what we should do. And that's what I think most people will do. But to suggest that West Ham fans shouldn't be emotional right now, after being wound up for the last month at least, I think that's a bit ridiculous. But it works both ways. Let's just say we spent £20 million on a striker next week. The club announced it. Should fans sit there and go, well, we don't care. We're not celebrating. We're going to judge you out in the window. Of course not. The club are then going to want you to get excited, get hyped up. We've got a new signing. Love it. Be happy. We will. So I think it's easy to say judge us at the end of the window. But here's the problem. To do that, we need to feel confident. We need to feel optimistic that the business will be good. That doesn't exist. You're telling us we've got no money. We need to sell before we buy, but also judge us at the end of it. You're the one that's getting us worried. So I find the claims quite staggering, to be honest with you. But listen, good business can be done at the end of the window. Absolutely. We signed Aaron Wan-Bissaka a handful of days before we kicked off the season last season. Our hammer of the year. Not my hammer of the year, but the hammer of the year was signed a few days before the new season got underway. So we can do good business. I'm confident we will sign some good players. How many might be the issue, and if they work out could be the issue, and who leaves could be the issue, but we will make signings. So judge them at the end of the window, we will, but doesn't mean you can't be worried between now and then. Just like it doesn't mean you can't be excited. If you're excited for what we're going to do, that's all right. You're allowed to do that as well. But in the last 12 hours or something, it's got worse. It's got worse. Just 2 days after they said, chill. They're now putting something else out there to get everybody worried again. And this time it's come from Sean X West Ham Police. It's not come from Sean X West Ham Police. It's come from Sean Whetstone, who is West Ham Football over on Twitter. He put out that, again, just reminding us, we must sell before we buy. And it was in relation to Kudus. But he left something in there that says Potter will be given a portion of the money, a large portion of the money to spend on income. Hang on a minute, what? Not all the money. And he's replied to people, in fairness to him, and he said about over 75%, at least 75%. So everybody's taken that figure and run with it, 75%, which I think is a fair thing to do because that's what we're getting. Now, just to stress, Sean Whetstone speaks to people at the club and he puts the information he receives from the club out into the public domain. He's the messenger. I strongly, strongly believe the message that he's got regarding this 75% thing has come from David Sullivan. Now, I could be wrong with that, but I guess that's the danger of things getting put out there, and according to a top source is the line. Well, we can only make assumptions. My assumption here is that it's David Sullivan that said we're going to spend most of the money, but not all of it. That's new information 2 days after they said chill out. But here's where my biggest issue comes. I've got an issue with that and we'll get onto it, but here's my biggest issue. I've got 4 screenshots to show you. So this is from Sean this morning, replying to someone. He said, the club are forecasting a 100 million loss this coming season unless they make savings, and that is after the release of players such as Ings, Creswell and Fabianski. A percentage of outbound sales will be used to reduce the net spend in transfers, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes on to say that they forecast that Paqueta will be found innocent. Now, he describes Paqueta as another saleable asset. I'm not even going to touch the Paqueta thing in this video because there's a lot. I want to focus entirely on the claim, which was the club are forecasting a 100 million loss this coming season. That's what they're forecasting. So today, June the 19th, that's the update. Well, I'd like to go back a month ago. This is in May. West Ham's projected loss for next season is between 80 and 90 million. All right, so we just bumped on 10, 15 million, possibly even 20 million. If you want to take the lowest figure there, 80 million, and go with 100 million, up to 20 million has just been added on to our projected loss for next season. In the space of 1 month, nothing has happened. We haven't sacked anyone. We haven't signed anyone. The only thing that you could say has happened is that CSKA are ramping it up about Nikola Vlasic, which is an £8 million payment we've got to make. But the club have also claimed that money is ring fenced. It's there. We've got it. It's just sitting in our bank account earning interest. But nothing has happened. It's just been inflated by, let's say, go down the middle and say 15 million. 15 million pounds has just been bumped on because the narrative is changing. It's gone from 80 million, we must sell before we buy, to you will get 75% of sales to spend because we've got a 100 million pound loss to plug next season. The numbers are changing in the space of 1 month. But what's worse and what's more frustrating is there's a bit in the middle here. Now, I just want to go back to the previous tweet and go to the bottom line, which is a projected loss on top of a 80 million. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to take the top figure here. The projected loss comes on top of a 80 million loss this season, so the one that's just finished, which depends on the Hammers' final league position this month. So, last season, £80 million loss. Next season, £90 million loss. Let's take the top figures. Okay, that's what the club were claiming back in May. Well, here's a tweet Sean did the 9th of June, so 10 days ago. Now, I've broke it into 2 bits, and I've picked out the bit that I really want to discuss. To make matters more complicated, West Ham are forecasting another loss of around 85 million for the current season, the one that's just finished. This means the club needs to take a long-term view, not just spending the summer, but making sure next year doesn't lead to much breach. So again, in May, it was going to be an £80 million loss. In June, it's now an £85 million loss, £5 million difference. Here's the other thing. When that first tweet was done, we were sitting 17th in the league table, 17th. When the second one was done, which has just bumped 5 million onto the loss, so we're now losing 5 million more than anticipated, we finished 14th. We actually, between those 2 tweets, we actually gained £9 million more in income because we moved up 3 league positions, yet the figure inflated by an additional 5 million loss. Now, some people will be watching this thinking, oh, Gio, give it a rest, you're overreacting. Maybe I am. But it's the inaccuracy of these reportings that frustrate me, because it feels like they just make it up as they go along to suit whatever narrative they wish to peddle at that point. Now, there's a second part, sorry, but there's another bit. The tricky bit is estimating the loss from last season and forecasting the loss for the coming season. Now, this was on the back of, that tweet was off the back of the Athletics article, which I was looking forward to because the Athletics said West Ham can spend 95 million with PSR, no problem. So this was the big response Sean put up in relation to that article. He went on to say, the Athletics article on the matter estimates that West Ham can lose up to £95 million last season. However, our senior club sources suggest the actual loss figure was closer to 85 million. Again, It's different. It's just got bumped up. The reporting has changed significantly. It might only go up 5 million, but that's a lot of money. It's gone up 15 million for next season, from 80 to, well, again, down the middle, 85 to 100. And these reportings stress me out more than it should, because I think, well, what is it? What is the truth here? And we will never, well, we will know once the accounts come out. So we'll get accounts in December for the season that's just finished. So we'll know if it was 85 million or 80 million or 75 million. We'll find out which one of those three claims was actually accurate in the end. But we've got to wait till December 26th to find out about next season's losses. And I have a huge concern because there's one thing that's not been put out there, and I'm making a prediction that this claim is going to come very soon. I'm surprised it hasn't, and the reason I'm surprised is because it's actually true. The club can claim something, and it's 100% accurate. But before we get to that, so Graham Potter's going to get 75% of sales to spend on the squad. Here's my issue with that. What happens if we sell £30 million worth of players, right? Because the difference between selling £30 million worth of players at $7.5 million for the club, that's their share of it. Let's put that into offset the 100 million losses. That's going to make a significant difference. But 30 million, and let's just say we could sell 100 million pounds worth of players with, I don't know, we sell Kudus, Sagard and someone else, and it comes to 100 million in total. Well, that's 25 million for the club. Well, there's a big dip. There's an 18 million swing there. So why is it 75%, and why is it not like a numerical number, which is ideally we need to recoup 30 million in player sales here? Because that feels like it would make more sense rather than a percentage. Because if we don't sell that many players, then we're going to have a huge problem. I mean, to plug the hole completely, we need to sell £400 million worth of players. That's obviously not, it's impossible, really, isn't it? Well, if you sell Bowen, if you sell literally everyone, you might make your 400 million. But it just feels random to some extent. But what it does do, I thought Potter had one arm tied behind his back already. But with this news coming to light, my word. So if you sell Kudus for whatever you get for him, you've only got 75% of that to go and spend. The club take 25% to try and make up for mistakes from previous regimes, including Sullivan. It's just bad running up. This summer is a result of bad management by the same board since they've got their foot in the door at West Ham, really. Everything's come back to bite them on the arse now. Bad spending, bad planning, everything's coming back. They're getting what they deserve. But I don't think Graham Potter is. Like I said, the $1 million question is, what did Graham Potter believe in January when he took this job? Did he know this was the situation? Well, I'm not even sure the board knew the situation in January. You can see by what's been reported by Sean. Again, Messenger gets his information from Sullivan, in my opinion. But the information he's getting from Sullivan changes on a fortnightly basis. The figures change on a fortnightly basis. So I don't know how Potter is meant to succeed in the circumstances he's in. He can't really, can he? Unless we get the window spot on with who we bring in. Everyone has to work. The pressure's never been higher to make sure the players we bring in works. My biggest concern remains the same. Who are we selling and how much are we getting for them? It's even a bigger concern now because we now know you're only getting 75% of it. Because with Kudus, it was like, we might sell for 65, ideally 185. You thought, well, 65, well, you could do a bit of work with that. Well, not really, because some of it is getting hoovered up by the club. It's not great. Now, here's my prediction. This is something we've not heard yet. I've not seen. I've been looking for it because it's true. Now, the club has cash flow problems right now. What we're seeing is issues with cash flow. In a weird way, part of me is thinking, well, at least we've stopped the bullshit about PSR. Because at the end of the season, it was because of PSR we can't spend. Bullshit. I feel like they've stopped that now. And it's like, all right, we've just got no money and we're not putting money in. Therefore, we're skint. The cupboards are bare. I feel like there's an element of truth coming out at last. It's hidden in among misdirection, but there's an element of truth there, which is they've stopped banging on about PSR, which is good. Well, it's not really, but you know what I mean. The bullshit has decreased a little bit. But this prediction is purely in relation to PSR. So when we sold Declan Rice in 2023, the £100 million profit counts for 3 sets of accounts. So Declan Rice's 100 million profit is still included in PSR for this coming season. This time next year, it's gone. The 100 million drops off. Because it's a 3-year rolling period, this time next year, that year with Declan Rice's 100 million and it drops off. That's now year 4. It's gone. It now no longer contributes towards PSR. So essentially, this time next year, the club will lose PSR. The club will lose a £100 million profit. That's going to be significant. The consequences of that will be quite significant as well. And I'm just surprised we've not had that trotted out by the club yet. About, wow, we need to be careful because next year we lose the Declan Rice 100 million. That's going to restrict what we can spend. That is true. I'm just surprised we've not heard it yet. But I'm putting it in here kind of so I can warn you, but also kind of so I can say, well, I predicted it. That's a bit egotistical, isn't it? But I've mentioned it before, but I'm just saying, I'm surprised it's not come out yet. And I think, now, there's the significant caveat to that is that next summer they may switch from the current PSR model to the new financial fair play rules, which is to go from what we're doing to an 85% squad to cost ratio. The issue with that is we need the Manchester City thing to be cleared up. Will that be cleared up by April next year? It's hard to see it. They may get their hearing now, but there will likely be an appeal if they are found heavily guilty. So it may change and it may not become relevant, but I'm predicting it now that Declan Rice 100 million will be the next thing to be trotted out. But unlike some of these claims that we've just seen, that's actually got an element of truth. Maybe that's why they've not used it yet. Because that would mean speaking the truth, being honest, no lies, no misdirection. And that's what we're seeing now. And I don't like it one bit. Graham Potter's job, in my eyes, with this new information, and Potter might have known this since day one, we don't know. But for me, my perspective is Graham Potter's job for next season has always been difficult. But for the summer transfer window, has just got even more harder than it was already difficult with this sell to buy. But it's just got even more difficult when it's sell to use 75% of the money to buy.